Special thanks to the K Family Foundation, lead underwriters for Mosaic. Hello, my name is Barbara Kay, and on behalf of the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County, I'd like to welcome you to our program, Mosaic. Our special guest on Mosaic today is the former mayor of New York City, Rudolph Giulian. We'll be back with our guest and our program right after this brief message.
The Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County makes so much possible every day.
Serving tens of thousands of kosher meals to seniors and families through food pantries, the Jewish Hunger Response, holiday meals, and on-site meal programs.
Operating the Jewish Community Assistance Network in 6 local communities to provide health, wellness, and social programs to more than 2,000 seniors.
But we need your help. Volunteer your time. Pledge your support. Make a difference. Thank you for your generous support.
Thank you! Thank you! Thank
Welcome to Mosaic and to Florida, Mayor. It is a wonderful thing to have you here.
Well, thank you
Listen,
very much.
I read your book, Leadership. I thought it was dynamite.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
I read in the preface that you love to write.
I do. I just write for fun sometimes.
Do you really?
Yeah, just to relax and write down my thoughts. I throw a lot of it away, but I write a lot.
No, even when you were an attorney, you loved writing.
I love writing briefs, yeah.
Briefs, yeah.
I just would volunteer to do it.
What motivated you to write this book on
What's
leadership?
interesting, I wrote it before I left being mayor, the last year that I was the mayor, and before September 11. And I wanted to write about the lessons I had learned about leadership and about how to deal with crisis and how to turn difficult situations around. You know, how to take a failing operation, like New York City was in 1993, 94, and make it a successful one. And then I had it just about finished right before September 11. It was all in draft form, or mostly in draft form. And then September 11 happened. I couldn't look at it again for another 4 months.
Yeah.
But it was very helpful that I had written it before September 11, because all those principles of leadership were kind of in my mind when I was going through September 11. So that I was actually going back to my book and remembering what I had written and saying, well, you know, I've got to make sure I remain positive, because if I don't remain positive, the whole operation could become
without question,
could become negative. So I'm not sure I would have been able to handle it, at least the way I did, the good parts and the bad, without having written that book first.
Amazing.
So it's a very important book to me too.
Yeah, I would think so. Actually, when you talk about September 11th, that was a turning point in America's life, and you were a major leader, and you came through. I mean, we depended upon you. I was in Manhattan when it took place, and I wanted to hear what you were going to do about it, because I needed somebody to give me some help here. I was frightened to death. What was the impact like for you?
It was in many ways devastating. I mean, it was, I couldn't feel it at the time because I didn't have time to give in to the feelings. I lost some very close friends.
Yeah.
People I had just spoken to 20 minutes before were gone. Chief Gansey, Father Judge, they were all right at the tip of the North Tower and were crushed when the tower came down. And then I kept learning about their loss. I lost the husband of my administrative assistant, Beth Hatton, was married to Captain Terry Hatton. Beth has been my assistant since 1984.
Wow.
1983, actually, when I first became U.S. Attorney. And I had performed their wedding ceremony maybe 3 years earlier. And then to add to the pain, and also then the other side of it, the great beauty of it was she was pregnant. And he didn't know it. She found out 10 days later.
Oh, wow.
And now little Terry is 9 years old. So that's what September 11 is like. The worst day of my life, and in some ways the greatest day of my life.
Yeah.
The worst day for New York City, in some ways the greatest day because of the heroism that was displayed and the ability to overcome the worst thing that they could possibly imagine happening to them.
Do you know something? Listen, it's amazing how you take things for granted. I mean, listen, it's important to have the firefighters, it's important to have the police, but somehow you're not, I speak for myself personally, so I'm qualifying it,
Right.
but I'm not aware of the courage and the bravery.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, that's true. You know, maybe 2 days into it, the police commissioner, Bernie Kerik, who unfortunately had other problems in his life, but was magnificent in his response to September 11. He said to me, you know what September 11 is doing for the police, what we have tried to do, and what you've tried to do for 8 years in trying to get the people to appreciate them, and all of a sudden now everybody appreciates them because they see in one moment how heroic they are, like the firefighters.
Yeah.
But they take that for granted every day.
Precisely.
And then they concentrate on something one police officer does wrong, as opposed to what the other 1,000 police officers do right. And I think it's just changed the whole view of firefighters and police officers. The New York Mets, first game they played when they came back, wore the hats of the firefighters, police officers, and the Port Authority police officers. That was great.
Yeah, well, so I guess I wasn't alone in that feeling. But you know something? You were an amazing leader before 9/11, because you took over a city that was in great difficulty. I remember you wrote in the book that in 1990 you were in London, and you were having a conversation with somebody, and they said, we're talking about a city, and they said, New York City, you can't, nobody looks at anybody in the eye,
Right.
directly in their eyes. They all look down. And you know, that's the kind of city you took over.
Yeah, this man was going to come to New York on a trip, and his travel agent had given him a card, and the card had 10 tips on how to avoid being the victim of a crime in New York City. And I think the 10th tip was, don't make eye contact.
That's right.
So can you imagine going to a city where you're told you can't look at people? I mean, you
that's
can't,
what went through your mind.
Right, I think what a horrible, who's going to come to New York City?
That's
no
right.
wonder our tourism was all the way down. We're telling people, don't make eye contact, walk around with your head down so you can't see anybody.
Yeah, but actually when you talk about leadership, you had the control of the city. I mean, you were a leader before 9/11. What are the components of you think is a good leader?
Well, I think the first one is you have to know your own mind. You have to know the direction that you want to take people. You have to have a set of goals, a willingness to set goals for people and not be afraid to set a goal where you may fail and work very hard to achieve it. I think a lot of people try to do the safe thing. You know, if they work in a big corporation, they fit into the bureaucracy, they just don't want to make a mistake. Well, that's not a leader. Leaders are going to make mistakes because they're going to try to do things that are a little beyond what people maybe think they can achieve. So I think that's the first component of a leader. You have to be a visionary, and you have to think of, what do I want to achieve? People always said, you can't reduce crime in New York City. Can't be done. I said, well, we're going to do it. I have no choice. I have to do it, and we're going to reduce it. People say you couldn't reduce welfare in New York City.
You did.
We reduced it by more than half. You set goals like that, and you try real hard to achieve it. And then you have to motivate people. You have to give them a share in how to accomplish it, how to visualize it. You have to reward them when they're doing good things. You have to set standards so that you can show them how they're making progress. I think those are really the characteristics of a really good leader. Yeah.
Well, you also have to give confidence. And what you said also was that you had to look for some small victories initially.
Right. When you're trying to achieve a big goal, let's say like reducing crime, you can't do it in one day. You can't do it in 5. You can't do it in a year. It's going to take 3 or 4 years to do it. So you've got to set some minimum goals that show you're on your way to the final goal, but you're not there already, so that your people can have confidence. It's like a football team. It's a losing football team. Before they can win the Super Bowl, they have to win a game.
Right.
They have to win a game.
So they have to, right. So they have to feel good about themselves and give them the
So
energy to go forward.
You try to get them to win a game so they can get to feel what it's like to win, and then build on feeling what it's like to win.
Mm-hmm. You have to surround yourself with good people too.
Well, the key to it, I mean, a leader accomplishes nothing without other people. And any leader that thinks it's a one-person show is going to fail. It really is more about other people and how you get them to do what is necessary to achieve the goal, how you teach them to do it, and how you motivate them to do it. I think of a good leader or a good coach, let's say, a sports coach, as somebody who's a teacher and a motivator. Somebody who knows how to teach the fundamentals of what we're trying to achieve and then motivate people to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you know something, you had to have idols yourself. I mean, you had to have some mentors that helped you, that you looked up to. You also research everything tremendously.
Right.
You read.
Right.
I remember someone said to me, I don't know, how would you like to make a documentary? I had never made a documentary, but I said, sure. I went to the library, looked up how you make a documentary.
That's what I would do, yes, exactly.
I know. I read it. That's what I felt. I had a comradeship here because it's exactly what I do. Nonetheless, you have to be educated.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't take things lightly. You have to be also an emotional person, but you have to keep your emotions hidden.
Right. I think you have to get into the details of things. You just can't lead, up on the cloud somewhere.
Uh-huh.
You have to understand how your organization operates. I studied the entire budget of New York City. I learned every part of it. Mm-hmm. I spent hundreds of hours from the day I got elected mayor until I gave my first budget briefing, which was probably a month later. And when I went out and gave the budget briefing, I did it without notes because I had literally learned the entire budget. Not every single thing in it, but enough so that I felt comfortable that I knew where to put the money, where to take the money away, where we were being efficient, where we weren't being efficient. But if you don't sit there until 3, 4 in the morning for days and days and days learning it, then anybody can snow you. Anybody can. Then if you don't understand the details, you're the victim of your advisors.
Okay.
And you can't independently evaluate what your advisors are saying to you.
Yeah, you also have to be prepared. Louis Pasteur said, chance favors the prepared mind. That's
right.
And that's what you live by.
Right. I have a chapter in the book, I think it's Relentless Preparation.
Exactly.
And it was described to me, you talk about mentors, one of the most important mentors I had was the judge that I clerked for, Lloyd McMahon. He was a federal district judge. My first job out of law school was as a law clerk. And he had a rule of relentless preparation for trial. For every 1 hour in court, 4 hours of preparation.
Wow.
And over-prepare. You can never be too prepared. Nothing should happen that you don't anticipate. And then he would say, even if something unanticipated happens, you'll know the answer to it because you know so much. Yeah. And that helped me on September 11 a lot because the unanticipated did happen. The attack was not anticipated, that kind of an attack, by airplanes being used as missiles attacking our buildings. We had anticipated 20 other kinds of attacks, suicide bombings, anthrax, sarin gas, hostage taking. But we hadn't anticipated that. So it was very valuable to have had all those other plans, because even though we hadn't prepared for exactly the thing that happened, we had prepared for so many different things that were similar to it that the firefighters and the police officers had a pretty darn good idea of what to do.
Yeah. On that note, we're going to take a break. We'll be back with the remainder of our program right after this brief message.